YouTube is the largest video hosting service on the internet. As of February 2025, it's officially 20 years old. Looking back on 2 decades worth of video could strongly reflect the eras in which they were made. The first to the site largely had no idea what it could lead to, but inevitably, some would stand out. These YouTubers, while not considered typical celebrities, still inspired future generations to be like them. The knowledge obtained while watching their content evolve would tell future generations what works and what doesn't. One example of these different YouTube eras lies with Minecraft. While the conversation around old Minecraft on YouTube grows increasingly repetitive and whiny, there's still a line in the sand, a separator between the new creators and the old. But out of all channels on YouTube, there's always going to be one that's considered the largest. For a while, that title went to PewDiePie. Nowadays his channel is much less prevalent, but obviously, another channel would have to take his place. One who up to that point, studied YouTube's algorithm for years. And the person behind said channel and who also took way too long before naming... MrBeast. Real name Jimmy. I can't say that name with a straight face. Jimmy created his main channel on February 19th, 2012, 5 days to the 7th anniversary of YouTube's founding. Like many, he aspired to be a YouTuber. By growing up on the platform, he gained advanced knowledge on what worked. He'd play the games he saw others play, like Minecraft and Call of Duty, jumping into trends like Let's Plays and mod reviews. But when looking back on these videos, we see them as they were. Most of us were never there at the time, to witness his channel's rise. So if Jimmy were to say, hide his old videos, almost none of his 400 million subscribers would notice. It'd simply appear as though he blew up overnight. But when I look at MrBeast, the most subscribed to YouTube channel, I see a missing piece. A series lost to time, and one which practically made Jimmy's career. But while the videos are hidden on his channel, you can only cover up so much on the surface. With that said, I'm IC. Welcome back or subscribe if you're new here, and together, we're gonna revisit Worst Intros, the true series which made MrBeast. Okay, I know I've done a bunch of stereotypical video essay yapping, but regardless, this disclaimer is needed. Throughout the making of this video, MrBeast has been a heavy topic of controversy and discussion, with serious accusations going around. This video covers none of that, and I want nothing to do with said situations. I cover internet horror and make silly documentaries. Serious topics are outside my comfort zone, and I planned on making this regardless of MrBeast's current image. So to Jimmy Legal, this is not a hit piece, leave me alone. So what is Worst Intros? To answer that, I ought to clarify what an intro is. To keep it short, many YouTubers used to have these animated openings to their videos. They'd help to distinguish one's content from the millions of others on the platform, but nowadays, intros are much less common. I suspect many stopped due to watch time or view retention reasons, but as we'll see shortly, a small percentage could very well be thanks to MrBeast. As in Dear God Everything's February 2015, Jimmy would post a seemingly insignificant video titled, Making Fun of YouTubers' Intros.
Alright, so I went on a bunch of smaller YouTube channels, generally channels with less than 100 subscribers, and I downloaded their intros, and we're about to make fun of them. So I'm going to go ahead and start rolling them. This is the first one right here, and just look at how epic this is. Here's the second one. He puts the link to his channel in his intro. I've never understood why people do that, but oh well. This one by TNT Universe is pretty interesting. I like this guy's intro, but the fact that it's like 20 seconds long is kind of a turnoff, but whatever. The Bandicam watermark at the top just makes this intro 10 out of 10 next level stuff. And the fact that you can't even read the words, they're moving so fast. But anyways, those are just random intros I downloaded that I thought were really funny, and I just wanted to make fun of. Let me know what you think, and I'll probably do another part 2 of this with some more intros and make it a little bit longer.
In his own words, Jimmy kept stumbling across small gaming channels using or showcasing low-effort intros, which he felt like making fun of for a video of his own. Now, this was 3 years into his channel's existence. It was just another of his many experiments in hopes of getting into YouTube's algorithm, but luckily for him, it worked. Although not being labeled an episode itself, it served as a template for what would become the Worst Intro series, and from this point in time up to May of 2017, his channel would grow from 1,800 subscribers to 1.2 million. Again though, looking at MrBeast's channel today, the series is all but wiped from existence. Hardly anything remains aside from the initial video. Although it has more views than those before and after, its growth is all but frozen, showing just how much the series as a whole has been forgotten. But why would Jimmy want Worst Intros forgotten? Well, that'll become apparent as we go through them. Of the 66 total episodes, I managed to save 25, amounting to almost 3 hours. While this video is a look back on this series, it is not a raw compilation. There are many reasons for this, and I don't feel like listing them. Hopefully as I guide you through it, you'll understand why letting him play completely unedited is ethically impossible. Anyways, Starting with episode 6, because the first 5 are lost, we can see how simple the series initially was. So simple, in fact, that Jimmy doesn't show up at all, as it's mostly text with an occasional voiceover.
Disclaimer. The following is not meant to be mean, it is just some stupid teenager trying to be funny.
Hello guys, I just came to show you guys my new intro.
From one episode alone, there's a clear problem. Almost every single intro Jimmy covers in this series was made by kids, many of which were filmed in real life. The byproduct of this is a series in which his creator primarily mocks children. Doesn't sound like the best image for a creator now, does it? However, when Worst Intros was being made, the atmosphere surrounding it made it much more normalized. 2015 was when YouTube commentary was in its prime, and channels like LeafyIsHere would make fun of just about anyone the internet deemed cringeworthy, including kids. A lot of Jimmy's inspiration for this series came from channels like Leafy. Additionally, this was a time before blowing kids' faces was commonplace. So even if Worst Intros was all for jokes, they were much more careless and targeted. All in all, this era of YouTube commentary wasn't as much commentary as it was bullying, and evidence for this can be seen in how Leafy's channel was long since terminated. I know this vastly oversimplifies things, but I don't care. To give Jimmy even the slightest leeway, he starts this video with a disclaimer that he means no harm with the series. At least for episode 6. He also started Worst Intros when he was around 17. While he may not have known better, it's still a bad look. With MrBeast now being the largest YouTuber of all time, one can only guess why it was hidden from the public. Anyways, next episode. Or next as in skipping to 18 because I have no choice.
MrBeast 6000! The cow.
Worst Intros on YouTube, episode 18. And remember, if you lose too many brain cells, please see a doctor.
That needs to be with the way. Let me ruin my intros. This is my new intro. Emojis are cool.
The reason I love this intro is because he doesn't hit stop record. He keeps recording and covers up the lens with his fingers, like he doesn't know how to stop recording. So these next couple intros are in gibberish, but lucky for you guys, I have a translator that actually can translate from gibberish to English. So these next couple intros, I'm going to play the intro, and I'm going to play the translated version.
Boba Fett, alarm clock. You've just been terminated.
This guy's obviously trying to one-up my explosions, and I don't appreciate that. So just because of this kid trying to show me up, I'm going to have an explosion show at the end of this video, just to prove to this kid who the real explosion master is. You ain't one-upping me.
While still overly simplistic, we get to see one of the things Jimmy used to stand out, something he still does today, green-screened explosions. But intermixed with padding out the watch time of a 3-minute video, he filmed a real explosion by detonating a laptop, showing that even back then, there was a willingness to put forth more effort. Or more likely he just found it cool. And you know what? Fair enough. The next video isn't actually an episode of the series, but rather a top 10 worst intros on YouTube. Hey guys, this is Editing IC here. So, it turns out MrBeast put his entire catalog for worst intros behind some investment firm known as Fodder, blocking both audio and visuals from public viewing. So as you would expect, this makes going over an entire series by Jimmy almost impossible. However, it's been almost a year since my last upload, I kinda need to get something out for you guys. And while this video was initially over an hour long, this means I'm gonna have to cut it down dramatically. And this means you're gonna see some very sudden mood swings that aren't gonna make much sense. All of these episodes of MrBeast's worst intros are archived elsewhere. I can forward this information around to other YouTubers if they want proof, but as for me, I just gotta scramble to get this thing re-uploaded. To summarize a lot of what MrBeast does in worst intros, overall he was very edgy, especially during the latter half of the series. He'd make racist jokes, homophobic jokes, constant jokes about bleach and self-injury, jokes about abuse and cruelty. He also makes some fascist jokes and does the Elon Musk salute a few times. All of it is stupid, but it's not what I'm here to argue about. My main gripe with the series back in the day is that it would publicize kids' faces and allow anyone to just go over their channels and leave hate and whatnot. Being a creator who speaks on how you can improve as an artist and doesn't tear down, that's my main issue with this. That and Jimmy making gross comments and jokes about kids throughout this thing, but yeah, that's another problem. This wasn't something I realized when I was watching back in the day as a kid. So yeah, it was just very jarring to me. Anyways, that should be it. Hopefully this thing isn't too incomprehensible. Sitting between episodes 22 and 23 chronologically, the opening segment hints at just how successful the series was for Jimmy. In his own words, worst intros made his channel take off, thus proving I'm not exaggerating. On the other hand, he goes on to explain how most of the intros he'd find are of kids dancing while holding paper with their channel names written on it, or as I'll call them, paper intros. Looking back, his lack of self-awareness and warning about bullying while showcasing these intros to a growing audience is painful. For the sake of having common sense and not wanting to nuke my channel, unless there's some necessary context, I'll be cutting these intros out. I will, however, be keeping a tally, so both you and I can be surprised at what the series truly was. With episode 24, we begin to see Jimmy put in more effort, recording himself to give witty remarks. Not much to say on this one, other than it's interesting to hear Jimmy ask for only 300 likes. Really puts things into perspective seeing him now. Up next is episode 28. Jimmy acts confused here on why a kid would upload a paper intro, either not realizing or playing ignorant to the fact he's talking about kids, most of whom lack the tools or skills to match their inspirations. But whatever, it's an obvious joke. In his own words, Jimmy shows off an intro of a kid simply enjoying music. He shows a screenshot to prove it's meant to be an intro, thus provided the kid's channel name. Going there today, we find that this My New Intro video was taken down, and he quit YouTube altogether in May 2016. In his last upload, he says he just wants to pursue other interests. However, it should be noted episode 28 came out just 1 month earlier. This episode also introduced the ability to send intros for Jimmy to look at, via Google form. Unfortunately, it wasn't archived, but I remember submitting a few some years back, and may or may not have tried ratting out my friends. I'm half joking as I don't remember what I sent, but I know they were never covered. Skipping ahead again, episode 32.
This is the reason why kids get bullied.
Again, Jimmy's acknowledgement of kids getting bullied while showing him to his viewers is aneurysm-inducing. In this episode, he discovers a kid making rapping videos, and shouts him out in hopes of getting a rap about MrBeast. Now going by Sammy 2 times, the kid would follow through with this request, and today, according to his About page, seems cool with it. Unfortunately, the shoutout didn't bring Sam an audience with staying power, as his channel now sits abandoned at 2,600 subs, while archives show a peak of 3,000. Next is episode 37, and this is where the LeafyIsHere inspiration really becomes apparent. I don't care to check where the drinking bleach meme originated, but Leafy greatly contributed to its popularity. I'll let you decide if the joke aged poorly. Aside from that, there's not much to say here. Episode 38. Again, not much to say, so we'll move on to episode 39. However, this is where things take a turn.
Okay, so this question is dead serious. Why does it sound like he's having...
Like I said at the start, this video is a retrospective on a series I watched growing up. To an extent, I knew I'd be more critical going back into things, but my past perception kept me ignorant to just how gross and truly negligent certain portions would be. Jimmy shows a clip here, of some kid exaggeratively climbing the stairs. He then comments on how the sounds could be mistaken for something else, and proceeds to replay the clip with the visuals removed. Jimmy would have been 18 when he did this, but it doesn't matter because joking about a kid's video like this at all is absolutely disgusting. He should have known better. Further on, he reacts to an ironic intro of a kid holding a jug of bleach in the same episode, joking about being a positive influence before replaying a part where the kid pretends to drink from it. Take that how you will. Episode 40.
These are the worst intros.
Jimmy implies this intro's creator was responding to imaginary comments on it, and perhaps watching these has made me forget how irony works, but you can delete comments? In fact, to me it reads like she was responding to someone asking to do sub for sub, which is more likely to be flagged as spam. Locating her channel today, the like to dislike ratio in 2 of 3 of her videos that are still up are fairly negative. The dislike counter add-on I'm using has been proven unreliable, but the comments also imply she was getting a lot of hate around this time. It appears she may have stoked some of it by being mad at Jimmy for showing her video, but with how irresponsible he was with making these, yeah, her anger is justified. Episode 45. So nothing really happens in this episode, other than Jimmy covers a video by someone named the Red Spy. Sometime after this, they'd actually go on to collab for a CSGO video, which also featured another YouTuber named Bluesdank. So there's some trivia for you. Up next was the special occasion for the series, episode 50, a compilation of intros and reactions from prior episodes. But more importantly, we're introduced to an important character of early MrBeast lore. Yes, I just said that. Giant Asian sticker was a very prominent character during this era of MrBeast. So much so that Jimmy would provide an Amazon link to him in the descriptions. Just like Worst Intros itself, most references to him are now gone. It's unclear why, but by reading this wiki description I found of the character, one could take a guess. It's hard to describe just how important this sticker was to Jimmy's early videos. In many ways, the character redefined what worst intros and his channel would be known for. Although as we look at this description and what he says later, maybe that's not a good thing. Somewhat indicative of Jimmy's transition into philanthropic content, he at one point tried calling a store to learn the guy's identity, but to my knowledge it never went anywhere. Also in this same video he jokes about self-injury with a karambit knife, if I can even say that with how much I've censored as is. While many episodes of worst intros are lost, these compilations help us see what they included. However, it also shows how Jimmy's egregious comment in episode 39 wasn't a one-off.
Okay, so am I the only one curious why he blurred out his butt? Even though you can clearly see he has pants. But the real question here is, am I wearing pants?
Much like the video Jimmy removed the visuals for, you can infer the individual behind it, and why Jimmy's comment here is once again disgusting. Oh, and speaking of that, he plays it again here, because these are the clips he wanted the series remembered by. Back to the video.
I quit. My brain can't take much more of this.
Eyes, also known as Private Fearless, was a large Minecraft YouTuber who played survival games back in the day. Having also grown up watching him, seeing a meme about him in worst intros was like witnessing universes collide. Bro, that sounded so much better written down. Why did it sound so cringe? Following its inclusion, Eyes would explain things in a video about hate comments.
Okay, I need to just debunk this finally. I was not on MrBeast. There was a guy called Jake, and he made a joke version of my intro, and then he held a pickaxe up and he went... And I get comments to this day, oh, I saw you on MrBeast. It's not the same.
Right. Now wasn't that a funny and lighthearted interlude? Well, immediately following it is an intro that's somehow worse than the previous two. I refuse to even describe this one. I'll just let the prior instances and the dialogue Jimmy chose for Giant Asian Stickers comments imply why it's awful.
This ought to be good. Beast, what are you doing looking up videos like this? I think Beast has some explaining to do.
Episode 52.
These are the worst intros.
In this one, Jimmy experiments by doing facecam reactions. Nothing else of note, apart from our carrying by Giant Asian Sticker. Episode 53. Alright, I'm running out of things to say at this point, so I'm just gonna play the rest of these back to back. Here's a timestamp if you want to skip all of them, but there'll be more in between if you find certain episodes uninteresting. Episode 55. Episode 58. So Jimmy responds to an email he got from a concerned parent near the end of this one, or someone pretending. It's impossible to say for sure, but his response to it is not the best. Also, here's the website he mentioned as a replacement to the Google form. Not much to it. Moving on to episode 59, I found Jimmy's opening to this one so funny that I copied it in one of my own videos. Up next is another compilation, and it's 20 minutes long. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Here's what we haven't seen. Episode 60. Episode 61. Episode 62.
Wow, Jacksepticeye's channel has really gone downhill.
Episode 63.
Like our anime posters?
Episode 64. Episode 65. And finally, episode 66. And there you have it. May of 2017 marks the end of MrBeast's Worst Intro series, for a total runtime of 2 years. If you skipped ahead for the last several episodes, and trust me, I wouldn't blame you, Jimmy mentions how he started doing challenges, such as counting to 100,000. It was videos like this which broke him out of the niche he feared he trapped himself in. While it's clear Jimmy knew how to get the algorithm's attention, I'd still argue that without the initial boost from Worst Intros, it'd take much longer for him to see success. 4 days ago as of writing this, MrBeast put out a community post to commemorate 400 million subscribers. A decade ago, before I blew up, everyone in my life told me I was too obsessed. I was called a freak, and constantly told I'd never make it. Despite that, I just couldn't stop. I was in love with making content and grinded every moment my eyes were open for 7 entire years before anyone started watching. I literally told my mom I'd rather be homeless than do anything else. Well, it's one thing for Jimmy to celebrate with a motivational speech about how life viewed him as the underdog. Putting his self-described YouTube obsession in context with this series really puts things into perspective. He was so focused on making it big on YouTube that he stunted himself from learning a basic sense of ethics and responsibility. Out of everything archived from Worst Intros, 234 clips were of presumably kids just goofing around. While Jimmy was a teenager for a good chunk of the series, his niche was mainly him picking at kids half his age. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he was called a freak by his peers, because the way he handled this series was extremely gross and irresponsible. And yet, it worked. For over a decade, I dreamt of being a YouTuber, to climb the sub-ranks and hang out with the creators who inspired me. But because those around me knew better, I was told to wait. So I did. For years, I watched as YouTube's many eras flew by. Once I finally made a channel, I approached the platform with much more reservation, yet despite this new caution for what I'd create, I still lacked the ability to understand everything I'd watch. In revisiting worst intros, I can see what I liked about it. It's enjoyable to view what others make and feel like you could do better. But at the end of the day, I was still a kid. I couldn't see the reality of what I was watching, let alone the side effects of Jimmy covering someone in worst intros. But all this still ignores the elephant in the room. YouTube, while in the process of modernizing, still had its pockets of the internet's Wild West. If someone made worst intros today, and were just as reckless as Jimmy was, tell me, what would the response be? Like I said at the beginning, I always planned to cover worst intros one day. Part of me felt special, knowing how long I'd been following Jimmy's YouTube journey. But it had been so long, my entire recollection was rose-tinted. Quite literally, I had no knowledge of any of this. It's no wonder worst intros was covered up. And while I've been critical, my goal is purely to bring this series back to light. Modern commentary, despite its faults, should give Jimmy the true level of criticism he deserves if they so choose. I tried handling this professionally, but frankly, I want Pandora's box out of my hands. So there you have it. Worst intros for what it truly was, albeit heavily edited. Feel free to subscribe, but above all, thank you for watching. Honestly, the start of this year has been rough on me, but I've been meaning to get back into making videos for you all. And now that this monstrosity is out in the world, hopefully my nerves can subside. But with that said, see ya.